My name is Elena. I am 28 years old. I come from a humble family. 4 days a week, I work as a maid in a large house. On the other days, I work in a small gift shop. The big house belongs to Mrs. Higgins. She is 57 years old. She is a widow, meaning she has no husband and she lives alone. I clean her house, wash the dishes, and cook dinner. I like her house because it is spacious and bright. Mrs. Higgins has one son. His name is Daniel. He is 31 years old, but he does not have a job. Daniel lives with friends in another part of the city, but sometimes he visits his mother. He usually arrives early in the morning. Daniel sits on the sofa and watches television all day. When the weather is nice, he sits on the terrace and drinks beer. Daniel is quiet. He only says hello and nothing more. He drinks many bottles of beer. I always carry the empty bottles to the basement. The basement is dark and cold. I do not like going down there, but it is my job. Mrs. Higgins works at a factory. She leaves early and comes home late. Sometimes she calls me while I am cleaning and asks, "Elena, is Daniel at home? Is everything fine?" I always answer, "Yes, Mrs. Higgins, everything is fine." Most of the time, that is true. I respect Mrs. Higgins. She is always tired, but she never complains. She pays me on time, and I feel lucky to have this job. Before coming here, life was difficult. After my divorce, I moved here to earn money. I send money to my son every month. He lives with my mother back in my home country. He is only 5 years old. I miss him every day. One morning, Daniel came into the kitchen while I was cleaning. He looked serious. "Elena, I need your help," he said. I stopped and looked at him. "What do you need, Daniel?" He whispered, "I am going on a trip for a few weeks, but please don't tell my mother. She will worry too much. Just tell her I am still here." I was surprised. "You want me to say you are home when you are not?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, just tell her everything is okay. She always calls you. Please, Elena." He looked exhausted. There was something sad in his eyes. I felt sorry for him. I did not want trouble, but I said, "Okay, no problem." Daniel gave a small smile and thanked me. The next morning, I saw him leaving the house with a small bag. After that, he did not return. The days became quiet. There was no television noise and no beer bottles on the terrace. I continued working as usual. Every evening, Mrs. Higgins called and asked, "Is Daniel at home?" I said, "Yes, Mrs. Higgins, everything is fine." It was a small lie, a harmless one. I didn't want her to worry. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Higgins came home early. I was shocked to see her. She never came home early. She said, "Elena, I came home to see Daniel. Is he here?" I froze for a second. I lied and said, "He went out this morning. Maybe he'll come back soon." She sat down looking tired and worried. "He never answers my calls. I don't know what is wrong. I just want him to find a job. I can't take care of him forever." I felt guilty. I said, "He'll be fine, madam. Maybe he just needs time." Later, when I finished my work, I went to the basement to put away some cleaning supplies. When I switched on the light, I noticed something strange. Some old beer cases were open, a few bottles were missing, there were broken pieces of glass on the floor. Daniel was gone, but it looked like someone had been there. My heart beat fast. I cleaned the mess and said nothing. Days passed. Mrs. Higgins left food for Daniel on the table every night, but every morning the plate was still full. She thought he was just not hungry. One morning, I arrived at the house and found the back door open. I checked the basement immediately. More bottles were missing. That day, when Mrs. Higgins called, my hands were shaking. "Elena, is everything okay? Is Daniel there?" I wanted to tell her the truth, but I couldn't. "Yes, Mrs. Higgins, he's here." Later that week, I saw a tall man near the back gate wearing a dark jacket. I couldn't see his face. When I looked at him, he walked away quickly. I felt scared, so I locked all the doors. A few days later, Daniel sent a text message from an unknown number to his mother. It said, "Don't worry, Mother, I'm okay." Mrs. Higgins showed it to me. She looked pale. "Do you think something happened to him?" she asked. I tried to comfort her. "Madam, maybe he just changed his number. He will come back soon." The next morning, when I arrived, the front door was wide open. The sofa was moved, and the drawers in the kitchen were pulled out. Someone had searched through the house. I called Mrs. Higgins immediately. She rushed home from work. We checked the basement together. Many cases of beer were gone. The floor was wet. Mrs. Higgins looked at me carefully. "Elena, did you see anyone?" I whispered, "No, only a man near the gate once." "Maybe it was Daniel," she said softly. Mrs. Higgins cried that night. I could not sleep either. The guilt was too heavy. The next morning, I called her and told her the truth. I told her everything about Daniel asking me to lie and about the missing bottles in the basement. Mrs. Higgins said, "I'm coming home, Elena." That evening, we went to the basement together. We looked closer. A blanket was missing from the shelf, but some old clothes were still there. "He was here," Mrs. Higgins said. "My son was hiding here the whole time." That night, she sat in the living room waiting for him, but he didn't come. The next day, she told me not to come to work, but I was worried, so I went anyway. The back gate was half open. Inside the house, I heard voices. I walked into the living room. Daniel was sitting there. He looked dirty, thin, and very tired. Mrs. Higgins was crying. "Daniel," said Mother, "I'm sorry. I had no money and no place to stay. I was sleeping in the basement. I didn't want you to see me like this. I was ashamed." Mrs. Higgins held his hand. "You should have told me. You are my son." Daniel looked down. He turned to me. "Thank you, Elena, for helping me. I just needed time." I felt tears in my eyes. Mrs. Higgins asked me to stay for dinner that night. It was a quiet meal, but it felt warm. Weeks passed, and Daniel began to change. He helped clean the house. He worked in the garden. Mrs. Higgins smiled more often now. One day, Daniel came to me and said, "Elena, thank you for not giving up on me. I want to be better." Months passed. Daniel finally found a small job at a supermarket. It wasn't a big job, but it was a start. Mrs. Higgins started baking on weekends again. Sometimes she gave me a cake to take home. She smiled and said, "This is for your son, for the boy who is waiting for his mother." If you liked this story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.